Hey.
Hello.
Hello. How's it going?
Oh, it's getting ready to be better.
Uh, Not so good, huh?
It's been a crazy couple of days.
Yeah.
My kid is going on his first field trip today, or I
Oh.
guess has gone. It's like six
Mm-hmm.
o'clock, so clearly it's finished.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so like first and foremost, his father forgot about signing the permission slip.
Oh no.
Was due on Monday. So I had to send my husband in on Tuesday to like ask if it was okay.
Yep.
Oh God, because basically, it's an all day field trip. So if he can't go,
Yeah.
he stays home. And I was like, no, he can't stay home on Thursday. I mean, any day but Thursday. God.
It's always
I was
weird.
like, I need that last minute time to get my life together.
Yeah.
Um, and so yeah, I mean, so that worked out, but then it was like, oh, actually, you have to get all these things because he needs a packed lunch.
Mm,
And my kid is like, he's 3. He does what 3-year-olds do. You don't know what they like anymore. Like,
that's
I mean,
right. And they
like,
don't pack their own lunches, that's for sure.
no. And like, I mean, I've never really seen my kid eat a sandwich.
Yeah.
And, there was like, can I send him with some hot dogs and some rice? I mean,
Mm.
can I do that?
You
It's
can
just like,
send him with anything. I've sent the weirdest stuff to my kids' school. I'm like, okay, it's grocery day. You're getting these weird crackers and this leftover or something. And
but I mean, I feel like in the future it's going to be like that.
yeah,
But like, I was just so nervous. I was so in my head about it because I was like, they're going to judge me. I know. They're
right,
all looking because they know my kid's half American. They're all going to look and see what he's got. And I was like,
right.
oh no, God, oh God, oh God. I don't know
That
what French kids eat.
whole aspect.
Yeah, I have no idea what French kids have in their lunch boxes. I have no idea. So I was just like, okay, this is whatever. I was like, I'm just gonna pack just a bunch of small bits of things because I know you like this. I know you like this. I'm gonna make this sandwich and hope. I'm gonna send you an
Hmm.
apple. It's like, oh my goodness. It's just, so I hope my
Yeah.
kid ate today.
Well,
And I hope he had a good time. And I mean, my
if he
phone
was
didn't
hungry,
ring.
he probably ate something.
Right. I mean, my phone didn't ring, so that means that he didn't
Mhm.
hurt himself or someone else.
Right. He
And
survived.
exactly, he survived and I survived. And I finished a presentation and I hope that it's cohesive and I really hope I'm saying what I mean to say.
Well, one thing I'm sure you've noticed is that our classes and presentations are very informal. Hey,
Mhm.
Holly. Hi. So, like you get to stop and
Yeah,
think, you get to open it up to question, like, just go with the flow.
cool.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Doesn't have to be any kind of polished in any way.
Oh my God. It's good to be told that.
Uh-huh. It's a
And
nice idea in theory, isn't it?
right, because then it's fighting against, like what, 16, 18 years of schooling. Mm-mm-mm.
Actually, I won't start recording, so I'm going to start recording. Hi, everyone. Hey, Pamela. Hey, Jessica. Yay. So, welcome to those of you watching. Welcome to those of you watching the recording. I'm super excited to have Tiana Dodson here with us today. I'm going to give a brief introduction to her, but first I'll say those classic housekeeping things in my classes, which is use the chat, keep the chat open. I will be watching the chat throughout the conversation so that Tiana doesn't have to, and I will feed her the feedback and the questions that are coming in. So feel free to ask questions all the way through, and then whenever you're ready, Tiana, I can let you know what people are wondering about and what people are talking about. And I think that's it for housekeeping. I'll just say a super short introduction to Tiana. How did I even meet you, Tiana? Was it, did you take the art of showing up at some point or something? Or
I
did I find you? Where did I find you? Do you
We're in a
remember?
Facebook group about feminist marketing together.
That's right. Wow, it goes all the way back to there. Okay. Um, way back in the way back.
Mm.
Um,
So much has
and
changed since then.
yes, so much has changed since then. And we don't actually know each other super well. Tiana is just one of the people that I've been seeing in the internet environment around me who, as I was just saying to her now, like I know, uh, a cultural worker when I see one, like someone who's out there changing the culture and doing it in creative ways and generous ways and generative ways. So I've just seen and recognized that in Tiana's work for a long time and kind of had it in my mind like when next time I'm teaching something and I want to address, you know, body image, fat oppression, fat liberation, health from a liberating perspective, I'm going to ask Tiana because those are not my areas of strength. And I've just been looking forward to this opportunity. So thank you so much for
Oh,
joining us,
thanks for
Tiana.
having me. Thanks for having me. And for giving me all these words to
Oh,
feel good.
cool.
This is so exciting.
Yay. Happy word showers to you.
Oh, I like that word showers. Yes, I needed one of those today. So I'm getting ready to shower everybody else with words.
Great. I will mute myself and just ask for what you need. I'm
All
here to
right.
assist. Okay.
Great. Thank you. So I'm going to share my screen because I prepared a presentation. Oh, this is, okay, there we go. I was like, I know what I'm doing. It's totally, I know what I'm doing. Am I still sharing my screen? The correct
Yes,
screen.
it looks fantastic. And I like your
Great.
typography.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Okay, so I am going to, okay, make that little thing smaller. Okay, so today I am going to talk about fatness, body image, the healthist gaze, and selfies. And so Amy just gave me a nice little introduction, but I'm going to tell you a little bit more about myself. I'm a body liberation coach. That's actually a new name that I've given myself this year. Prior to this, I was a fat health coach. So just putting it all out there, right? No questions. I'm the founder of One Beautiful Yes. That's the umbrella that I operate under. I am a fat woman. I'm a queer woman. I'm a mom. I'm a biracial woman of color. I am a book lover, a music fanatic, and I'm a compulsive dancer. And what that means is that sometimes I will, well, I have a hard time hearing music and not moving to it. So that's what that means. And basically what my work is based around is that I help people who are feminine of center find a way to heal their body image and their body relationship, basically because there's absolutely nothing wrong with living in a fat body. So that's my work in the world. So I'm going to open up here and I'm going to tell you about my personal fat story. And when I say fat story, what I mean by this term, and it's actually funny because I use it, and when I wrote it down, I have some little notes here, I was like, oh, maybe I should actually define this term because I know what I mean when I say it, and generally people know what I mean when I'm saying it, but I realized that I don't actually have a definition for it. So I made a definition. So it's a term that I use to describe the history that is inherent in someone's fat body, because basically all fat has a history, and it's simply because of our cultural beliefs around fatness. Because if we didn't have cultural, usually negative beliefs around fatness, then fat wouldn't have a story, it wouldn't be a thing. So it's a thing, and so everyone has a fat story. And I'm gonna tell you mine. So yeah, important content and trigger warning here, because not necessarily in my story am I going to share these things, but there will be some things in my story. But later on in my presentation, I will be sharing images and words that describe personal pain, possible abuse, self-loathing, and self-harm. So if these are the kinds of things that trigger you or are going to cause you distress, then please take care of yourself. And I'm sorry you can't be here with us, but your care of yourself is more important. Okay, so with that, here we go. So here's a picture of Tiana and Tiana's sister when I was about 6 years old. So this is like 1986. And so I'm 6 here, and like I would say that I've always been fat. And the truth is that I wasn't actually really fat until about the age of 8. That's when I started to, or at least in my mind, that's what I remember when I start to have comments directed at me about my size. But as you can see here, being roughly 6 years old, I'm not a big, fat, roly-poly kid. Like, I'm large. The difference between my sister and I is 1 year. I'm tall and not a skinny string bean, but definitely not a fat kid here. And here is a photo from about 1992, judging from what I'm wearing. Because if you didn't catch it, I've got double socks on. This is the 90s, like peak 90s. This is me and my sister and my cousin, and we're at an amusement park. And as you can see here, like I'm definitely starting to have, you know, that fatness be really more apparent. But also what you'll see, 1992, I'm 12. This is puberty. I have breasts, you know, so like gaining weight during puberty is not something that is strange or alien. It's something that comes part and parcel with that part of your life. So here I am going through puberty. Here's a photo of me with some friends in front of my locker in 1998. 1998 is my senior year of high school, and I know that because of how I was wearing my bangs. It was my thing back then. And as you can see here, like I am visually large, and there are those, you know, I've always been busty, like that's just my gift slash curse. That's how my body is, and I'm wearing men's clothing. Now, the thing is that I'm not doing this because I'm trying to be genderqueer or anything like that. There was no play on that whatsoever. It's just what fit me and what fit me comfortably. Also, it was kind of in style, but that was convenient that it was in style because I was a larger bodied girl who was unable to find clothes that made me feel good, in spite of the fact that I was only like 17, almost 18 years old at that time. And this is me in 2006. And as you can see, the progression of the photos, I've just been basically getting larger and larger and larger. And that is not because I have spent all of this time sitting on a sofa, stuffing my face with, quote unquote, unhealthy foods or fried foods or whatever. I grew up in a household with a dieting mother who was very, very concerned about her size. And we had snacks in the house, but the only snacks we ever had were things that were low fat, low calorie, sugar-free. I just was not, eating quote unquote junk food all that time. In addition, I was pretty active. I played volleyball. I was on the track team doing shot put, and I walked to and from school. And the last time I was home, I actually did I never knew how far it was, but actually I was walking a mile each way. So I was an active person, up until about college. So the fact that the weight kept coming, maybe we should question why I was receiving these kinds of messages, that there was something wrong with my body. And So, whoops, going backwards. So here I am in San Diego in 2009. I'm walking in Balboa Park with some friends. I was working, I was at a conference, and the thing that's spectacular about this photo is that this is me at one of the smallest body sizes that I had been in a very, very long time. I felt amazing. I was wearing a top that I bought at H&M. And like, I was just so excited about myself because I had dieted, starved myself. I had starved myself and exercised myself down to this size. And I felt amazing about it, even though I wasn't eating food. And then here I am in 2014. This is the last day of a 7-day raw food fast that I had tried out. I had already been a health coach for a couple of years at this point, and I decided to try it out. It was interesting because I had tried being vegan sometime previous to that. And at this point in my life, like, I was like the biggest I had been up until that point, but I was active. I was in a happy relationship. I was proud of myself. I felt good. All of my blood work looked good, but still somehow people kept telling me that there was something wrong with me and that I was going to die early, or I was going to get diabetes, or basically that I was just unhealthy, regardless of the fact that all of the things were pointing to, yeah, not yet. And then here's me today, after, having a child and being married for many years and serving bananas and Burger King nuggets and playing with strange toys that work weirdly. It's a different kind of life that I'm living now. And I'm certainly the biggest I've ever been for lots of different reasons. But essentially, like, this is just my fat story. This is my progression where I have exercised. I have dieted. I've done so many different kinds of diets. I've taken pills. I've done shots. I've done shakes. I've done detoxes. I did Weight Watchers. And ultimately, I'm still bigger than I ever have been. So, like, there are just lots of questions that this, like, my personal experience brought up for me when it comes to the question that kept being put to me, like, why are you so fat? And, did you know that's unhealthy? And it's like, well, hold on. I'm confused by both of these questions. I mean, I know I'm fat. It's hard not to know, especially when it's your own body. And also, like, is it really unhealthy? Because there's a lot of things about me that point to I'm actually healthy. So I started to do the research and try to figure out, is there something else? Is it possible? Could it be a thing? And that led me to where I'm at today with my work, where essentially what I am doing is struggling against healthism. My body image struggles and my weight struggles throughout this period of time, throughout my life, really. They changed from trying to be thin in order to be acceptable, in order to be beautiful, in order to be like desirable and worthy, to being quote unquote healthy. And this is a subtle shift because I started saying like that last time that I had lost all that weight back in 2009, that photo, I was doing that for my health. That was what was different with that experience in my life. I was no longer trying to lose weight to be beautiful. I was trying to lose weight to be healthy. I had bought into the idea that fatness was unhealthy. And that idea is driven by healthism. So I know that this might be a new word to a lot of people, but I'm going to define it for you. So, this is a terrible slide. Sorry about that. It's a screenshot from this awesome article, which defines healthism. Uh, this guy, Robert Crawford, wrote this book, or sorry, it's an essay, back in 1980. He's a political economist. What does that have to do with health? Lots of things. But basically, he says that healthism situates the problem of health and disease at the level of the individual. Solutions are formulated at that level as well. To the extent that healthism shapes popular beliefs, we will continue to have a non-political and therefore ultimately ineffective conception and strategy of health promotion. Further, by elevating health to a super value, a metaphor for all that is good in life, healthism reinforces the privatization of the struggle for generalized well-being. And so this author of this article about healthism summed it up so very nicely, which is basically, if you get sick, it's your fault. And this was a change in the way that we had approached health and well-being prior to that. And it loosely coincides, not even loosely really, it coincides very nicely actually with Reagan and his trickle-down economics, the real introduction of neoliberalism in the United States. A lot of our moral values and our economic values were changing at that time, and healthism was just part and parcel of it. So if you're interested in reading the article, I suggest it. It's a fantastic article. I pumped my fist kind of the whole time I read it. You can find it online, and I'll be able to share that link with you afterward. All right. So,
Tiana, I just want to reflect back that minds are being blown in the chat in case
I
you're
love it.
Okay.
Thank you. I'm seeing like the little flashing, and I'm just like, oh God, I want to look.
Oh yeah, no, just a lot of wow. Thank you so much.
No problem.
Really good information.
You're welcome. I'm glad you're enjoying it. Yeah. So basically, healthism is actually the thing that led me to health coaching. I mean, that's part and parcel. That's this distilled all to it, because I went to a health coach looking for health, which actually meant finally getting thin. And while working with that health coach, I awoke this love of nutrition. And it was my new way of helping people, because I've always gravitated toward helping people. So when I got married and had to leave my job in order to move to Europe to be with my husband, I decided, let's go ahead and do this health coaching thing. Let's give this a try, because I just can't wait to get out there and make all the people healthy and get them to eat vegetables. It's going to be so good. And like, I was very, very firmly on the let's get everybody thin and healthy train. But like, it was fraudulent, my desire to do this, because I was not thin. And so that led me down a very interesting path where, like I said before, I started to question the whole idea of healthism, the whole idea that I have control over my health. And it led me to the health at every size paradigm, courtesy of the internet and the wonderful people who live there. Health at every size is exactly what it says in its name, that it is possible to find health regardless of the size of your body. And the whole basis of the paradigm is that if you want to be healthy, the thing that makes you healthy is not your body size, it's your health promoting habits. And that was just a wonderful bit of permission that was actually backed up by science, that gave me the permission to do what I had been doing that had been working for me, and gave me the impetus to walk out into the world as a health coach and spread this message further. And so that's where my work has been based. And so I'm just curious, is anybody here not sold on healthism?
Doesn't look like it. We've got a lot of Hell yeah, happening.
Okay, well, damn it.
But bring you want any of us to pretend? Bring possible arguments.
Oh, I love it. It just means that like I'm in a space where you're definitely all more leaning toward being my people,
Yeah.
because there are people who, when they see the word healthism, clearly don't agree with me, and I have lovely evidence from that, because of Instagram yesterday. So yesterday, I was feeling my oats and I put on some lipstick and I wrote this message on a piece of paper, which is that healthism is a system of oppression. And I gave it a cute little lipstick kiss because I was feeling my oats, like I said, and I posted that on Instagram. And somebody wonderful came and said, when fat people start saying the idea of being healthy is oppression, better never see you at a hospital then, because those are just oppression centers. And and I was like, oh well, that's just you just don't get it. You, okay. So, I responded to him and I said, I'm sorry that you misunderstood my words, but, health and healthism are completely different things. And his response was, well, healthism seems like it's a made up word. And my response to him was, all words are made up at some point, but you can Google healthism. He hasn't responded back yet. I'm waiting. So, but either way, there was also somebody who commented. I deleted their comment because it was just rude and stupid also, but rude. And they actually came back and commented again, which I then deleted again. So they really wanted me to see what they wrote. And this is the way internet is actually really impressive in the opposite direction, that people have time for things like this. But basically, there are people who don't believe that healthism is a system of oppression, that somehow wanting everybody to be healthy is a good thing and a necessary thing and a thing we all should do. And what I did notice was that pretty much everybody who challenges me on this, because I've talked about this on Instagram, and on social media in general several times. And basically, what ends up happening is they always challenge me, not on the idea necessarily, but they always challenge me in the fact that I'm a fat person who's saying this. So the whole thing is, like if it's boiled down, basically, I am trying to justify myself in the world. And in some ways, yes, fucking shit, I am. But at the same time, like it's the exact same way where indigenous people are trying to be recognized. It's the same way that Black people are trying to be recognized. It's the same way that anybody who lives in a marginalized body, for whatever reason that body is marginalized, is trying to be recognized as a full, sovereign human being who is worthy and deserving of rights. And, that's just what I'm doing here. And that's just what people don't get, because healthism is such a strong drug. But basically, healthism ignores something really, really important, which is that health inequity is a thing. If we want everybody to be healthy, great. I think that's great. I think that's really good, because health is a fantastic thing for people to have. But basically, it needs to be something that is made achievable and accessible. And right now, in like 0 places in the world, is it either one of those things? And part of it is because that there are things called the social determinants of health. And this is a list of 14 different things that actually are socially in some way responsible or have an effect on your actual health. Your income, your education, your job security, what it is like to work the job that you may or may not have. Oh, I forgot what ECE is, sorry. Your ability to access food or inability to access food, where you live and how you live. If you are excluded or included socially, which is basically loneliness or belonging, your social safety, your health services, your race, your gender, your disability, and your indigenous status. This is, I don't think, an exhaustive list, because I'm sure we can add to this list. There are some things that are missing here. But basically, what we know is that these are things that actually affect your health. And a lot of them you actually do not have any control over. So when we are preaching that health is something that is precious and you need to do everything that you can to have the best health that you can, well, you're telling people that they should just get over their disability, or they should just get over the fact that they don't live somewhere safe, or they should just get over the fact that there's no grocery store within a 5-mile radius. And that's just not cool. It's not a lot of things, but it's specifically not cool. Yeah. So now that we know a lot more about health, I want to talk about the healthist gaze, because in this class we've talked about a lot of gazes, and the healthist gaze is one of them that kind of encompasses a lot of the other gazes, the same way that a lot of the other gazes also have some kind of healthism in them. But let's talk about healthism specifically. So I'm going to show you some examples that result from the healthist gaze. And one of them, for example, is this. So a lot of these are going to be screenshots from Instagram, because we're a visual class and it's more fun to see the screenshots than it is to, hear me tell the stories or what have you. So this is a comment that was on an article about the dangers of weight loss surgery and the things that somebody struggled through because they had chosen to have weight loss surgery. And this is a person who basically has had weight loss surgery, has achieved their ideal weight, and was not made happy by it. They gained weight back. They felt guilty about it. They had skin removal surgery, so they're having another surgery on top of the initial one. And they're having a weird relationship with food. And if there's something you really don't ever want to have, or really just shouldn't have, is a weird relationship with food. There's so much good about food, not from a fat, speaking as a fat person, but also speaking as a human being. Food is amazing. It's fuel. It's pleasure. It's sensual. It brings love and family, celebration. So many things about food are amazing. And it's just heartbreaking when somebody says, I have a weird relationship about food. I want it and I can't have it. I mean, this is what the healthist gaze is doing to us. The healthist gaze is making us look at ourselves and deny ourselves things as fundamental and necessary as food. This is a selfie that came up. It's not really a selfie. It's just a little bit of a cheat. It's a picture that's supposed to represent this person. In some ways, it is a selfie, just a back in the day selfie, where she posted this photo of her at, I think she was 6 years old in this photo. She's a grown adult woman now, but in this photo, at the age of 6, she was already on a medically prescribed diet where she had to, or not she specifically, but her mother was counting and weighing and portioning and denying her food. And what she remembers from this time of her life was just always being hungry. And that is not something you should be suffering as a child in a middle class household in a Western country like the United States. It's not a necessity. It is not. But she was suffering it not because she was unhealthy in any real sense, just because she was heavy. This is something which is a grab from a Facebook group that I'm a part of, one of many, about where people have congregated, people in larger bodies who have congregated to help support each other and have solidarity and, ask embarrassing questions like this. It starts with, so this is like the only place that I can have this discussion most likely, which is already a sad thing that this person doesn't have any other container where they feel comfortable to ask a question like this. She's been fat her whole life since she was a baby. She has no idea what it's like to navigate a world that doesn't hate her or that's willing to make accommodation for her. And her experience is that she has broken chairs because of her size. And in this, she's talking about, there was it's like a 40 comment thread that comes after this because she's embarrassed about the fact that she's breaking an actual toilet, not the seat of the toilet, not one of those plastic garden chairs that everybody likes to buy because they're cheap, but an actual toilet. And she was asking for support and advice about what to do. And of course, if she had asked this in the wider world, the immediate response is, well, why are you so fat? You shouldn't be so fat. Get less fat. But see, that's not the problem. That's the healthist gaze that says, oh, just control yourself, versus what is the actual problem? The actual problem is toilets aren't built for all the people. They're only built for some of the people. These are just examples of the kinds of things that you go through when you live in a larger body, in a world that is prizing thinness, is praising weight loss, and is always aggressing you about the fact that your body doesn't neatly fit into the little teeny, quote unquote, average size boxes that it has constructed for you. And there's more. So I just decided for shits and giggles to see what the hashtag body positive would give me on Instagram. And so body positivity is this wonderful movement that's going on right now that has people saying things like love your chub and love your body. And I mean, inherently it just sounds really good. It's got the word positive in it, right? And so you want to believe that body positive is a positive thing. The history here is that body positivity actually has come out of the fat acceptance movement. The fat acceptance movement started in the United States in the late 60s, where basically fat people at that time, in response to the rise of someone like Twiggy, this, ultra super thin model where everybody wants to be ultra super thin, they were like, hold on, let us be fat. It's who we are. And it's always misconstrued that this kind of movement is about making people fat. So let's all get fat. But actually, that's not what the movement's about at all. The movement has always been about, we are fat. Just let us be. Stop trying to control us, because part of the reason we're fat is because we've been trying to control ourselves. Courtesy of the healthist gaze. Because 100% that if you have dieted, you will gain weight. 100%. Anyway, so body positive. The first thing we see on body positive is this runway show full of Black women in larger bodies walking the runway, which is fantastic. That's the kind of thing that I want to see when I see body positivity. However, if you scroll down, this is what you start to see. There's this woman who has gone on this weight loss journey and has lost close to 200 pounds. That's an amazing transformation physically. Like, wow, that's a huge difference in person. And she's done it over 15 months. And that's, you know, that's really something. That's really something. Body positivity also has this woman who is putting up before and after photos. You know, in one photo she's in high school, in the next photo she's getting ready to get married, you know, and this also qualifies as body positivity. And just these two photos already, or these two examples already show how far we've come away from where body positivity actually started. Because body positivity was not about losing weight or getting thinner, or even being stronger. It was about being able to be accepting and positive of the body you have. Point. So body positivity then shows us all of these things as I continue to scroll. And some of these are really great. I mean, like we've got, you know, men subverting the traditional masculine gaze. We have a male presenting person who looks like he's in drag now, which is really super. We've got some larger women who are looking, you know, attractive, made up, and things like that. But what we do keep seeing is health, weight loss stories, and lots of conventionally thin women. And specifically, lots and lots of white women. There's not a lot of representation here, especially for a hashtag on Instagram so widely used. It's really interesting how everybody kind of is very, very much not very representative of what we have in the days. And one that's really interesting to me is this one down here at the toward the bottom. It's a screenshot of something from Twitter, and it says, thin girls can smoke 50 cigarettes a day and have alcohol benders every weekend and only eat KFC, and y'all are like, here for a good time, not a long time. But let a fat girl wear a crop top, and it's like, this is gonna kill you. And this highlights the, like, you know, the double standard of healthism, where it's not really about your health. It's about control, specifically about trying to control your body size. So something that healthism does is it tells us that we have an obesity epidemic. However, in the book Body Respect, this person, John Robison, who is a big name in the fat acceptance spaces, compiled these numbers. So incidence per 100,000 children of type 2 diabetes is 12 cases. So there are 12 cases of type 2 diabetes. This is the adult onset, quote unquote adult onset, or, you know, the diabetes that you're quote unquote eating yourself into, not the one that you're born with or the autoimmune one. There's only 12 cases, only 12 per 100,000. Cancer, 15 cases per 100,000. SIDS, 56. Down syndrome, 120. 10 more times Down syndrome than type 2 diabetes per 100,000 children. Cerebral palsy, autism, eating disorders, specifically eating disorders. 2,009 cases of eating disorders per 100,000 children. This is what we are buying with healthism. Why are children having eating disorders? They are having eating disorders because the healthist gaze wants us to be thin for our health. And children are getting this message younger and younger and younger. And they are starting to starve themselves. They are starting to throw their food up after eating it. And they are starting to put themselves into these dangerous positions because they don't want to be obese. So the question here is, where is the actual epidemic? Clearly, it is not where we think it is. And this is why. This is why this is such a big deal. Because in 2017, the diet industry in the United States made more than 66 billion with a B dollars. That is a huge industry, a huge industry. That is a gigantic machine that is pushing media out to us, that is constantly bombarding us with the message that fatness is going to kill you, that thinness is the way to do it, and we have the solution for $27.99 a month. This is part of the problem. Or this is maybe the result of the problem. And we are all suffering because of it. All of us. Not just fat people, though we are suffering from it, pretty obviously, because we are the obvious targets because you can't miss us. But basically all of us are suffering from this because it's not only fat people that are paying into this industry. It is each and every one of us who is saying to themselves in some way, shape, or form that I would rather be healthy than fat. I would rather deny myself. I would rather deprive than being fat because being fat is so bad. And then being told that it's okay to talk to people and make them feel bad about themselves because that shame is going to actually motivate them to go out and do something about it because you care, because we care. But the proof is that we've done studies and shame is not actually motivating, unfortunately. Shame is harming us. Because honestly, we started this stuff, in like the 1970s, the 1980s, or whatever, with this really big diet industry. If it was working, this shaming thing, maybe we'd all be thin now. Maybe. And on that note, sorry, there's a screaming child that just came home from school.
Do you need to run and give him a kiss while we
I do not. He's with his father. He'll be fine.
Okay.
I have to talk about healthism. It's important for him.
Yes.
Yeah. So fighting back. I mean, how do you fight a $66 billion industry? I mean, that's huge, right? I mean, unless you're independently wealthy or you're Elon Musk or something, like how do you fight this back? It's really tough, but basically the answer is, we work to change the culture using selfies. It's one way. It's one way to do it.
Yes.
So I'm going to talk about my little stake in the world that I just started this year called the Emerge Selfie Challenge. It's just another little thing that I offer, trying to fight against this machine that has your great aunt telling you things like you shouldn't eat a second helping of that. essentially, I put together this little 5-day selfie challenge. Each day you get a prompt by email that challenges you to take a selfie that subverts diet culture, beauty culture, acceptability culture, anti-fatness. That's what it's about. And I wanted to play my little 3-minute video for you all. And I think I can do it. Let's make sure. Okay, I'm going to try to play this, and I hope you guys can hear it. Here we go. Let me know. Is it working?
We can sort of hear it, but not see it. It might be opening in a different window that's not being. Oh, there it is.
Here it is.
Oh, yeah, it's happening.
Okay. Let's try again then. It's happening.
Sometimes connection is funny with video on screen share, but.
Adjusting for your shape, regardless of your personal style? Are you hiding in plain sight by avoiding eating fast food, desserts, or anything that's considered unhealthy in public? Are you hiding in plain sight by arriving early to get a seat in the back or at the aisle to make sure that you're not sweaty or breathing hard when other people arrive and staying out of the way of everyone else? Are you hiding in plain sight by making sure you never make a fuss, no matter your actual thoughts? Smiling in the face of blatant disrespect and never speaking your mind in case it might make other people dislike you? Here's the truth, my dear. They see you. They all see you. But they don't see you the way you want to be seen. They don't see who you truly are. And you can change all of that just by choosing to show up differently. You might ask me, like, how do you do that? Because it sounds really hard, right? If it were really that easy, you'd be doing it already. Because it takes more than that, doesn't it? And the answer is yes. Yes, it's hard. Yes, it takes more than that, and yes, you can totally do it. And you can start your journey to challenging how you see yourself through the magnificent art of selfies. Selfies might seem a silly way to be challenging how you see yourself, but there is actually nothing silly at all. Because when you live in a marginalized body, they can be used as a tool for subversion. In a world that tells you that you are unacceptable, physically unattractive, and downright repulsive, taking photos of yourself and daring to share them with other people is a radical act of resistance. A resistance that says, I will not be erased. I will not be confined. I will not be dictated to about how I can live my life. And this selfie challenge, the Emerge selfie challenge, is all of that. You're not going to be challenged to show up and be pretty. You're not going to rest on the laurels of flattering. You're going to be asked to show up in ways that challenge the prevailing notions and narratives around fat bodies and what those fat bodies should do. You can't live your best fat life in a box. And here's your chance to start breaking free. So come join me, Tiana Dodson, for the Emerge Selfie Challenge. 5 days of selfie-based subversion, starting April 22nd. I'll see you there.
Okay, cool. Sorry if there was a drama in the background.
I could hear it. I could hear the video.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Cool. All right, yeah, so this is my selfie challenge. Because, like, it matters, right? Representation matters. What you see matters. And that's what's so important about art, especially visual, period. That's what's important about art, period. Is that we see ourselves in our art, be that art written or visual or otherwise. This is why right now, for example, the artist Lizzo is such a big deal. I mean, she's making music, that's great. But also she's a big fat, dark-skinned Black woman who is celebrating her big fat, dark-skinned Blackness, and doing it publicly and doing it loudly and doing it unapologetically. And that's resonating with a lot of people. Because when have we seen that? We haven't seen that, as not like this in such a long, I don't know, ever really, where you can just be yourself like that. And it's just amazing to see. So like, that's the whole point of this subversion, of this selfie challenge, is to subvert that gaze, subvert this patriarchal gaze, the masculine gaze, the gaze that says you can only post photos and selfies when you are doing something that makes you look pretty. I mean, it's a problem that I had for a lot of my life, where I was only able to take a photo if I could put on my photo smile and look directly at the camera and, like, always kind of tilt the chin up to kind of thin out this area. It was a thing. And like, when I started on my body acceptance journey, I started taking photos, to the chagrin of my husband, where I was no longer giving this face, because I was experimenting with not being beautiful. Would I still feel good about myself? Would I still be able to take photos? Would people still enjoy my photos if I wasn't trying to serve beauty and acceptability? And the answer is, lots of people had problems with them, namely my husband. But I loved them. I loved them. It was so interesting to see myself in these different lights. And it just seemed like you were really seeing me in a way that you had not really seen me before. And so I'm going to show you some examples from my selfie challenge. Here's one that was posted on Instagram, where this woman is basically showing us, she's got this roller thing that she's using on her facial skin to kind of help to smooth things out, but also she's posing with her brow furrowed. And that's a big no-no for women, especially feminine women, to be wrinkly or age publicly. And here she is, not only showing us that, hey, I actually do something to try to mitigate this, but here I am showing up with it as well. Here's a selfie just showing pure joy of eating food. That's one of my selfie challenge days, is take a selfie of you eating something that has a charge, some kind of negative charge associated with it. Some food you're not supposed to have. And this is one of them. I mean, I just love the joy in her eyes. Like, just her whole face looks alive and just awake with this food in her mouth. And here's another one, much more subdued, but the same thing, and even though she's doing a selfie challenge where she's asked specifically to pose with this food, she still is defending herself. Don't judge, because these cookies are delicious and soft, even though they're from the vending machine. And I'm just like, I was really amazed, because there's apparently a hashtag on Instagram, women eating food. It's apparently a thing that women are trying to subvert this whole crazy complex of gazes by doing something as simple as taking a selfie while eating food. Because the only photos we see of women with food generally are because we're cooking it or we're smiling with salad. I mean, oh God, those stock photos are terrible. So here's another one, of someone who doesn't self-identify as fat, and she was the challenge on this day was to make a selfie using a sign that says, "I am fat and that's okay." Here's my sign that I still have that says, "I am fat and that's okay." Oh, so much guff. I've gotten so much guff about this thing. But basically, like, if they don't hate it, It's because you're not doing anything. Hey, provocative. And so here she is, like, saying fat is a physical description. It is not a moral judgment, nor a state to be feared and reviled. Actually, she's quoting me from the email. I just realized that. But yeah, she's trying to accept these words. She's trying to process these words. And she stepped out of her comfort zone to pose underneath a phrase that says that being fat is okay, which is just, hey, stick it to them. Subvert. So the second time around the Selfie Challenge, I did it in a private, I had also a private Facebook group to try to encourage people to participate and actually post their selfies, because the first time around I got maybe a 5% actual posting rate on Instagram. So I figured, okay, let's try to make a little brave space, an insulated space where maybe people can feel more comfortable and actually putting their selfies out there. And this time around, I got this, which I thought was really great. I didn't show any of the photos from the private group because it was a private group. So to respect the privacy, you can have the words, but I've removed the context. So this person is talking about their belly and the softness of their belly. And I just love the words here. The skin that stretches across it, the stretch marks that cover it, some whitened or silvered with age, and some the purple and red of newly stretched skin. The grooves they make that I can trace with my fingertips and know, even in the dark, that my body is mine. I mean, this is beautiful prose about that very, very taboo part of our body, the belly, especially a belly that is not six-pack abs or flat. This is a soft, stretch-marked belly. And it's a belly that has cradled the heads of multiple children who are finding comfort in the softness of the belly. I mean, this is just beautiful. This is just beautiful. And this is the kind of thing that happens, this reclamation of self and physicality, when you turn the healthist gaze and deconstruct it and give people space to like be. It's amazing. So here's another one. This is another result of the healthist gaze. This was a picture of a woman wearing this dress that she absolutely loves, but she has never worn it outside. She's only worn it around the house and to bed. Just because her stomach is showing. The lumps of her stomach are showing. And that's why she's never worn this dress outside, in spite of her passion for it. This is what healthist gaze does to us. It causes us to not be able to do things we love. That's crazy. Just crazy. And in summary, this is why showing up matters, because that's what the Selfie Challenge is really asking people to do, or that's what I'm asking people to do with my Selfie Challenge, is ask people to show up. And that's what this whole class is about that we're in right now, is just asking you to show up and interrogate how you're showing up, and maybe change how you're showing up so that you can show up as more authentic, more wise, and more alive. And for me, my work is really difficult because I'm challenging culture. I'm challenging a very, very, very dominant culture, a $66 billion profit culture. And it's really hard. It's really hard because I am a person with a lot of privilege, but I do not have thin privilege. I do not have like beauty privilege. I don't have, all the privileges that would make this an easy thing for me to do. I am very marginalized. not as marginalized as many others, but basically it's hard just to live my life. And so I'm advocating, yes, for myself, but also for other people just like me, or other people who have harder struggles and a much more upward battle than I do. And so when I have a hard time or I feel like I want to quit, I have to remind myself that it matters that I continue to show up because of things like this. So I connected with this person. They just found me because of my Instagram profile. And they came to me because they had been, their 11-year-old daughter came home from school one day and went to the bathroom, which was kind of out of her habit, and came back and said, "Mom, where's the scale?" And she was like, "Why?" And the daughter said, "Well, because I need to know if I need to lose weight or not." And that's when this woman knew that she needed to change how she was dealing with herself, how she was feeling about herself, because she didn't want her daughter to go through the things that she had gone through and didn't want her to suffer. And she found me. So I'm glad about that. And this is what she wrote me after I posted a selfie of myself eating a bacon, egg, and cheese McMuffin from McDonald's. She said, "I've been restricting for about a week now. And this morning I woke up and was starving and said, fuck it. And went to go get 2 bacon and egg cheese biscuits. And I'm loving eating them and not feeling 1 ounce of guilt about it." And this is huge. And this has so much to do with what I've learned from you. Seeing this live this morning, because I did a Facebook Live, was just a nice reminder that yes, I can love my body by feeding my body what it wants. And I don't have to feel anything but happy and satisfied about it. Such a gift. You are a gift giver. Thank you. Oh my God. When I saw this message, I needed this message. I needed it because I was feeling funky. And I was so flattered by it that I couldn't type back what I was feeling. I actually had to like get on and send her a voice message because I couldn't write down. I had to say it because I was so touched. And I took a screenshot and I save it because this is why showing up matters. Because if I change just this one person's life, just this one person, if I can just touch one person, then everything I do matters. And that's why it matters how you show up. Because you, just by showing up, are an advocate. You, just by showing up, are an activist. You, just by showing up, can do good or do harm. And that's why it's important for you to learn to subvert all of the oppressive gazes. Because people like me need you, and people like them need you, and all these other people that you have never met need you. And that's my TED Talk. Thanks for coming.
Thank you so much. I'm glad that I have Zoom automatically set to record the chat because I do want you to go through and read the chat later, Tiana. There's a lot of just us processing what you're teaching us and responding to it and being really moved by it. So thank you so much. Holly just is giving you an ovation.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
There was, I think, a couple of questions that came up. Do you want to do question and answer?
Yes, I'm happy to answer questions.
Yeah.
Happy to answer
Pamela
questions.
had a good one. Pamela, do you want me to read your question or do you want to unmute and ask it?
Sure.
Up to you.
Okay.
Hi.
So I had asked earlier on, I think about this a lot because body types go into vogue and out of vogue.
Yeah.
And I was curious if in your work you had come across or had formed some theories about like why it is at this particular point in history we seem to have gone with this really thin and and also at the same time very healthist attitude about it? Like, are there things coming together that you've observed that seem to be sort of the crucial mix almost?
That's a fantastic question. You are right that in saying that body types go in and out of vogue. It's pretty fascinating because, of course, there was, that period of time when, like, basically there was food insecurity kind of across the board. And so to have a plump girl, like, for your wife was a sign of abundance and wealth, and everybody wanted a plump girl. But also, when they say plump girl, they don't mean like me. They mean somebody who's just more Marilyn Monroe-ish. But basically, like, there have been periods of time when bodies like mine have been in vogue. I think it's been a really long time since this happened. But basically, what we're seeing right now is really this move very much toward individualism. Or not this move, I mean, we're here now. But there was really a turning of the tide in, like, the 60s and the 70s in the United States. And that came, like, neoliberalism has a lot to do with it. And sorry, this is noisy. That's my notebook. Because I've heard this word neoliberalism tossed around quite a lot. And it's not a new philosophy. It's not a new idea. It's something that has been around since 1830 or something like that, and kind of went out of fashion in the US and then came back. But basically, the early 1900s is kind of when it resurfaced in the United States and kind of in the schools of philosophical thought. So I'm not a philosopher and I'm not a scholar, so my details might be a little fuzzy. Sorry about that. But basically, we started to see this definition that we use today for neoliberalism really come out in the 1970s and 80s with this whole Ronald Reagan, Margaret Thatcher, the trickle-down economics, and all of that stuff, basically moving more toward, like, the bad things in your life that are happening to you are your own fault versus, we're supposed to be a community and taking care of ourselves. No, you need to take care of yourself. That is your business. Because I guess, that's cheaper. Or something cheaper for the government, cheaper for their collective, much more expensive for the individual, but better for the pocket. Hey, capitalism. So these systems really intertwine quite deeply. It's not an accident.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I'm trying to see were there any other questions in the chat that I missed? There's a lot of really great commenting going on here.
I can't wait.
Or any questions that are coming up now?
I'm open to any questions, like, even if they're not directly related to what I showed, even if you've just got, kind of burning taboo, ask a fat person questions, I'm open to those too.
Well, I don't have a question so much as just something that your talk stirred up in me about the healthism piece, because, as someone with autoimmune diseases and chronic illnesses of various kinds over the years, I've definitely had that experience of people talking to me about it, like, sort of what's your deal? Like, this must be like a spiritual thing or a place where you're, like, just putting it back on, like, I somehow brought this on myself kind of thing. Yeah. And so that was resonating with me, but also thinking about my family, my sister and I've always been the thin one and she's always been the fat one.
Yeah.
And our relationship to doctors is completely different. Yeah. My relationship to doctors is people say, oh, well, you can't be that sick. Like, you look really healthy, Meanwhile, it's largely my relationship to food on an individual level, if we're going to go there, my relationship to food has been a source of a lot of my health issues. Like if you were to just look at the way my sister and I each relate to food, you could probably see that the way I eat has been contributing to my health issues, right? My sister, on the other hand, is a really robust, healthy person. And she walks into that doctor's office and people, like you said, basically say to her, oh my God, you're going to die. And, you know, her blood pressure is better. Her, you know, like all the different markers of health are stronger with her. And so we're both getting subpar care based on people not believing me that I'm sick and people not believing that she isn't.
Yeah.
Right? It's crazy.
But this is also part of the problem with healthism, right?
Yes.
Health is a moral imperative. And if you do not have health, then you're a bad person. You're unworthy. There's something wrong with you. And that's unfortunate because it is dangling an unattainable carrot for people, for example, who have chronic illness, or people who develop chronic illness, or people who are disabled, or, you know, all of these things, like there, you know, even somebody who has bodily based trauma, who can't just, who like is triggered by doing these health promoting things. Like all of us, all of these people are being erased by the healthist attitude. You know, the fact that you must do everything that you do must go toward health. Otherwise you are bad.
You're failing. And
you're failing. And the thing is, like, tying value and worth to health is a capitalist idea. Because if you're healthy, you can be productive. If you're productive, you're making money for somebody. And that's what we like in capitalism. We like that money. But if you're disabled, if you're chronically ill, you're not able to be as productive. And so you're less valuable in the system, which is just shit. Because, I mean, as a parent, a gestating parent, people are amazing. You know, like it is just amazing what my body did to make that person that I gave birth to. And ultimately what it comes down to is every single one of us is a fucking biological miracle and just physical amazing being. We are all super valuable. And like, it doesn't matter how much money we make, that shouldn't change how valuable we are. You know, each one of us contributes something. And that's the shit part about healthism, is that it makes a hierarchy, you know, fat people and ill people and disabled people at the bottom, and the people who can run ultra marathons up at the top, regardless of the fact that, number one, that shit's dangerous. And number two, a lot of the times, people who do these types of things are actually not necessarily healthy, as measured by the normal health bar, because like these things are not necessarily good for you physically. They're destructive. So that's something that's important. I saw a question in the chat. The question was from Allegra: what has been the most empowering part of my work and the most surprising? Oh, because she's interested in my joy. Thank you. The most empowering part of my work is anytime I can witness it. Anytime I can witness someone coming closer to themselves because our work together has taken a block out of their way. I had this experience, and it was a belief that I had for a long time, and I'm not unique here at all. I will do that thing that I really want to do when I finally lose that weight. When I get to that ideal weight, then I can go do XYZ. And there are opportunities that I have passed up on because I was afraid that they wouldn't like me. There's partners that I haven't had because I was afraid they wouldn't like me. There are just so many things that I have not done because I was afraid to be judged negatively because of my body size. And like removing that, getting your body out of your way is amazing. And so watching somebody who's like, I did that thing that I've always wanted to do is just amazing. I love it. I love that. It just gives me so much joy when somebody can say like, for example, one person I worked with, they were like, yeah, I wanted to marry this woman. I thought she was amazing the second I met her. And I could just see it, like I was going to wear a silver wedding dress. I was going to have pink hair and I was going to wear these shoes. They were going to be amazing. But I was afraid, of how I would look in that dress. But then they did it. They married in that dress exactly how they wanted to, pink hair and everything, shoes and everything. And they have, just an amazing experience. They have amazing memories of that, being who they wanted to be without having to worry about how does my belly look here? That's so liberating for me, for them, for everybody who sees them. That's really something very empowering and I love it. And surprising. Surprising about my work. I want to say that things that make sense seem to not make sense to lots of people. Like for example, healthism is a system of oppression. Does not make sense to lots of people.
That's why we need you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I feel like it's simple, it's a simple thing, like healthism, system of oppression based on health. Racism, system of oppression based on race. Sexism, system of oppression based on sex. Come on, just prefixes, suffixes, basic stuff, English, So that in some way is surprising, but it's really the commitment to willfully misunderstand, I think, that surprises me most.
Yeah. Also makes me just think it's so pervasive and feels so normal for so many of us. It's just like,
oh yeah,
we still see it as reality. There's just so little consciousness raising going on.
Exactly.
Incredible.
Exactly. To be honest, right? I am diabetic. I have type 2 diabetes. I have it on both sides of my family. It's a new thing to me. So, but I expected it to come. It's on both sides of my family. It's really nasty on my father's side specifically. So I just knew at some point I'm going to get my diabetes. But basically, diabetes isn't something that only happens to fat people. Mm. And that's the thing. When you think about it, right? None of these things that are prescribed as what's going to happen to you, the boogies, what are going to happen to you because you are fat, none of those things only happen to fat people. When I was pregnant, my blood sugar was tested 3 times. This is abnormal. Usually they test you 1 time, and if you're good, they let you go. But I was tested once, and no, that's not possible. I was brought back in for a second one. That's not possible. And I was brought back in for a 3rd one. And still, that's not possible. Then I had the baby, so they had to stop. But basically, because I was fat, they could not believe that I did not have gestational diabetes. I had preeclampsia during my pregnancy. And that was something that they had warned me about in the beginning because I had risk factors, lots of risk factors. I was fat. Okay, yeah. I was also 35 And it was also my first pregnancy. Those other two things, I have no control over. Well, pregnancy one maybe, but basically the other two risk factors I had no control over. But I was like watched like a hawk because I was also fat. Yet I have a friend who was pregnant. Her baby's what? Her baby's a year younger than mine. So she was pregnant shortly after I gave birth. She's a runner. She's a vegetarian. She has never been fat in her life. She also had preeclampsia.
Yeah.
And it was her second baby. So, you know, these things happen.
Doesn't make sense. Jessica's asking, can you talk about the men you've worked with and how they relate to healthism? Because there's obviously a huge gender component.
Yeah, there's a huge gender component. Yeah. And to be honest, I don't work with men. I recently was asked by a man to work with him. And I'm still a little on the fence about it because my work is based on my lived experience. And unfortunately, not a man. Maybe fortunately, I don't know. Depends on how you but not a man. And so like I could work with him because I know lots of stuff, but I don't know. I mean, I could hold the space for him, but it's just, I cannot empathize with his lived experience because I don't have the same. However, I am running a 100 conversation series where I'm inviting people to come talk to me for 20 minutes. Judgment-free, confidential conversations where I ask them questions about their fat story and I give them space to talk about their bodies and their lived experience. Kind of as market research, but also just like, because I like to talk to people about their body life, their body experience. And these have been just amazing conversations. I've loved every single one of them. No, it's not true. There have been two that were challenging, but the other ones have been really great. And I did talk to a man. So I've done two with men so far. And one of the guys, like, so generally, like everybody's got similar fat stories to mine because the people I'm talking to generally are people in larger bodies. And so they've all kind of got the same kind of thing. When they were younger, maybe they were small, but they had a parent who was dieting and somebody was always watching them like a hawk. And maybe they were put on a diet at a young age, but, you know, like they had this relationship with food that was back and forth, you know. So like everybody's kind of had the same story. And then we got to the guy. This conversation with the guy, and I ask him, what's your fat story? And he says, well, you know, I know that as a man, I have privilege in this realm. I know women have it much worse. And so I was like, all right, well, just, you know, tell me about it. And he was like, well, you know, I was always a big kid, you know, chunky, larger for sure. Always wore husky pants. He was like, but it was never really a problem until I was in my 20s and I was trying to date. And that's when my body size became a problem. And I was like, in your 20s? In your 20s? Wow. I mean, that's what my head was saying. And of course, you know, keeping it cool, non-judgmental. But I was amazed by the fact that as a man, it had not been a problem until he was like a full-fledged adult. As opposed to women, most of us, or, you know, anybody who's feminine presenting, we're being judged for how we present physically pre-puberty. I mean, for example, the 6-year-old who was already on restrictive diet. I mean, that's terrible. 6. You've had no life experience by then. So that's a huge difference. Like, generally, I mean, fatness for men is generally more acceptable. We see it in media quite a lot. Family Guy, you know, the thin, curvy wife and the big fat husband, the Flintstones, real throwback, you know, the thin, curvy wife and the big fat husband. It's a theme we see a lot, you know, and even if you look at like porn from the 70s. John, the one with the large member, you know, he's not even like conventionally attractive. He was always a little bit chunky, you know, balding and stuff, not special looking, but, you know, he was a porn star and a famous porn star because porn was for the, you know, made for the male gaze. And essentially, like, it was about projecting that fantasy. You, everyday Joe, can have these beautiful women. And so, like, men are always kind of given the pass a little bit better, a little bit more. They can be less than conventionally attractive and still be able to get the chick. I mean, the US president is a horrible person and is pretty unattractive and is married to a model.
Yeah.
You know, there's lots of those. But I mean, how many big, fat, unattractive women are married to model men? Not many. And if they are, I mean, do we know them? Do we know any of them off the top of our heads? I have no examples. None whatsoever. I mean, generally, when you see a fat woman in media who is partnered, you generally see them with a fat person, another fat person who is fair to middling. You know, Roseanne from the Roseanne Show. Her and Dave, his name was Dave, I think. You know, they were both big fat people, and that was fine. You know, Melissa McCarthy apparently has a show, because I'm not in the US, I'm in France, so I don't watch the same thing. You know, like Melissa McCarthy has this show where she's a big fat woman, but she's also with a big fat man. Lindy West is a big fat woman, and her husband, he's an attractive one, but he's a big dude and he's black. So he's not quote unquote conventionally attractive. So like nobody's even that. I mean, we find him attractive, but the general gaze does not. And so like, you know, men definitely have an easier time, even though fat is effeminate and, you know, generally not desired. They still have an easier time. They're getting it now. It's now coming around to them as well. Because now it's about being strong. It's about having chiseled abs. It's about having big pecs and strong shoulders. You know.
Yeah, eating disorders are on the rise with men now.
Disorders are on the rise with men.
With everybody, yes.
Is the gaze different? Oh, is the gaze different in France? No, not at all. They are so fat phobic here. There have been books written. So like there's a statistic that's floating around that France is the thinnest country in Europe. It's a lie. I don't know. Maybe it's true. But basically, I live in France. I mean, I've only lived here a year now, but lots of fat people here. And not just like slightly chunky people, but like big fat people. And I'm like, this is great. There are fat people here too. But they are really, really still quite fat phobic. I mean, like my mother-in-law, you know, is a larger person, and like she's been dieting forever. She's got diabetes. She's 70. And basically her prescription was to lose weight. That was her prescription when she was diagnosed. And she's just afraid of food. It's so terrible to see, you know, like as a diabetic, you don't need to be afraid of food. But like what you're told as a diabetic is that you need to be afraid of food. So she's suffering. And that's not unique in any way, shape, or form. Unfortunately, that is not unique. They have recently passed a law where it's illegal to be fat phobic, but I mean, it's the same kind of law like when the Pope stood up and said, it is mandatory for you to report child abuse going on in your church. And it's like, it wasn't mandatory before. I mean, what? it's symbolic, not necessarily actually doing anything. So, oh yeah, the rich people can be pretty rude. Rich people can be pretty rude, especially down south. But I mean, south of France is like Southern California and Florida. It matters how you look. It matters how you dress. Yeah.
Well, Tiana, it's Tiana, I'm sorry. It's
okay.
1:34. So I'm feeling like we should wrap up. It's been about 90 minutes. But I was curious, this conversations project that you're doing, is it specifically for people who identify as fat? Is my one question. And then my second question is that something that people in our class, if they were interested in signing up for, could sign up for?
Absolutely. So the first question, is it specifically for people who identify as fat? The answer is yes, no. Because I have actually had a conversation with somebody whose question was, am I fat? And they had such a hard time asking me because they didn't want to be ridiculed. And I was like, there's no reason to ridicule you about that. That's a valid question. It's a real question. It's a fair question. I have no problem answering it. And we talked about it. But basically, I have had people who do not identify as fat. So I have two categories of fatness. There is relative fatness and there is absolute fatness. I am absolutely fat. It means that I am fat everywhere I go, in every situation, in every group of people, in every chair. I will be fat everywhere I go. But then there's relative fatness, and relative fatness is like Khloe Kardashian. She's the big tall one. Khloe Kardashian is quote unquote the fat Kardashian, but that's because the rest of them are these teeny little petite things. So Khloe Kardashian in the wider world is not a fat person by any measure. However, within her family unit, she is fat relatively. So we have all probably been considered fat depending on which situation we've been in. And so, yeah, I'm happy to talk to you. Because we all it's not only fat people who are suffering in a world where health is the pinnacle of achievement. It's all of us who are suffering because it's just so much terrorizing that's going on about, showing up to look a certain way. So we all have body image issues. So yeah, anybody, please, if you're interested, I'm happy to talk to you.
Should we put a link in the Facebook group?
Oh, absolutely.
How about that? Okay.
We can put a link in the Facebook group.
Great. Wonderful. Well, thank you so much. This has been amazing. I'm so thrilled from a completely selfish perspective that you rounded out, I feel like each of the guest artists in the Art of Showing Up has been so brilliant and brought a completely unique and really, really valuable body of work right into the middle of our space that Jupong and I could not have provided. And I really, really appreciate your contribution here. Beautiful.
Thank you so much,
Tiana. And you're all welcome to unmute if you want to say goodbye.
Tiana.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Tiana.
Oh, you're welcome. So welcome.
Bye, everybody.
Thank you so much.
Bye. Thank you.